All right, now we actually get to do some applications. So if 24 of the 35 students in this class pass, what percentage does that represent? This is a problem you can probably just do in your head or on your calculator, but I'd like to set up a framework that'll make some future problems easier if you'll follow it. So that is, if you'll always fill in the blanks here. Blank is blank percent of blank. So we say 24 is what percent of 35? Take a second and just make sure that that actually makes sense. Is that what you're looking for? Is that what it's asking? 24 is what percent of 35? Yeah, that's what it's asking. So I want you to pause and make sure that that sentence that you're filling in the blanks for really makes sense in English. Okay, now we'll translate that sentence, the red and black sentence, to math. So that's 24 is x times 35. Divide both sides by 35. You get x equals 0.68571 ... What would my answer be? Okay, I was looking for a percent. Since I'm looking for a percent, I need to change that decimal into percentage form. So it's 68.6% pass. Obviously that's rounded, it's fine to round. But just two things. I know that you could take 24 divided by 35 at the very beginning, but just get in the habit of filling in the blanks for this sentence and it will help you in the long run. Okay, you saved $256 of each of your $1,200 paychecks. What percentage do you save? Okay, the first thing we could do when filling in the blanks is we could put an X or a what in that percent blank, because we know right off I'm looking for the percent. Now I just need to figure out how those other numbers fit into the equation. Well, I'm saving 256. I want to know what percentage that 256 is. So it's 256 is what percent of 1,200? Take a minute and read that. Is that really what that black sentence is saying? You save 256 of each of your $1,200 paychecks. What percentage do you save? Yeah, that's what you're asking. You're saying $256 is what percent of $1,200? Okay, translating that black and red sentence, we get 256 equals x times 1,200. X is 0.2133, and remember, x was a percentage. So I want to convert this decimal into a percent, and I get 21.3% of each paycheck. Does that make sense? Yeah, if I save $256 and I make $1,200, that's about 21.3%, or it might not be about 21.3% in my head, but about 20% makes sense. Dinner costs $54. You want to tip 15%. What tip amount do you leave? Again, we're going to fill in the blanks. Okay, the 15 is going to go in that percent blank. That's going to be easy. So my tip is 15% of 54. Does that make sense? Look at it and read it. Make sure that it makes sense. The tip is 15% of dinner, which is $54. Yeah, that makes sense. So my tip, or X, or T, or whatever, is, that's my equal sign, 15% has to change to its decimal form, $54. So I take 0.15 times 54. I get 8.1. Don't circle 8.1 and be done. But I leave $8.10 for a tip. I've read 63% of Gone with the Wind, which has 959 pages. How many pages have I read? Here's my sentence. So what I have read is 63% of the whole book. Does that make sense? The pages read is 63% of 959 pages of the whole book. Okay, so that would mean that pages is 0.63. Again, I take my percentage and convert it to its decimal form. Percent of means multiply. So I get 604.17. So I've read just over 604 pages. Jorge saves 6% of each paycheck. His weekly paycheck is $625. How much does he save? Blank is blank percent of blank. Okay, well we see right there 6% of each paycheck. So we can put 6 in the percent blank and the paycheck after the word of. 6% of paycheck, and the paycheck is $625. So his savings is 6% of his paycheck, which is $625. Translating, we get S equals 0.06, again remembering to convert. Percent of means multiply. So we get 37.5 Answer in real life times. Don't tell me 37.5, but 37.50 would be acceptable. So Jorge saves $37.50 each week. Your lunch was $13.45. You left $15 on the table to cover the tip. What percentage did you tip? Now this one requires you to do a little something first. First question, how much did you leave for a tip? Did you leave $15 for a tip? No, well, hopefully not. That's a really big tip on a $13 lunch. Okay, so we know that the amount I left was just $1.55, the difference between 15 and 13.45. That was the extra amount that I left. So $1.55 is what percent of 13.45? So 1.55 is x times 13.45. Solving for x, I get x is 0.11524. Now, is that my answer? Nope, I was looking for a percentage. If I'm looking for a percentage, I need to convert it. So that's 11.5%. I'm kind of a cheap tipper. So be careful when you're filling the blanks. Don't just automatically take the numbers that are in the problem. Make sure that it really makes sense. Because if you put 15 in that first blank, that makes, if we did it with words, the tip is what percent of our bill. That wouldn't make sense. I move into a new apartment. My new apartment has 130% of the square footage of our old apartment. If the old apartment was 600, how big is the new one? So we know the new is 130% of the old. Our new apartment has 130% of the square footage of our old apartment. Do you see how that's saying exactly the same thing? Now we know the old apartment is 600. So we get my new, which I don't know, is equals 1.3. Convert 130% into a decimal. Percent of means multiply, so I multiply it by 600. I get 780. So my new apartment is 780 square feet. Now, does that make sense? If my old one was 600, my new one has 130%, so it's bigger than the old one. Okay, that's in the ballpark. I don't know if that's exactly using common sense, but at least it seems right. If you got like 52 square feet, that would be a problem. So make sure that things make sense. You got 82.5% on your biology midterm. The midterm was worth 160 points. So my score is 82.5% of 160. Change to the decimal form. And I get x equals 132, so I got 132 points. Okay, those are the applications. So just be careful on where you put the numbers and make sure that your answer makes sense.